My guest today is Debbie Miller, and Debbie is known as the retiree's home transition expert. She's a transition specialist and a certified senior advisor with over 20 years' experience working with buyers and sellers over 55. She guides her clients through the maze of deciding whether to move or age in place in their current home. She definitely handles the emotional and logistical issues of selling the family home when adult children or their parents are faced with the task of cleaning out the residence and selling it. Her clients include adult children, empty nesters, active adults, suddenly single, like widowed or divorced, downsizing seniors, and executors for the sale of trust and estate property. Using her extensive experience working with hoarders, she provides support and solutions for families dealing with these challenging situations. She's an aging in place consultant and provides intergenerational housing solutions. Welcome, Debbie.
Thank you. I'm glad to be a part of this program.
Well, it's interesting. I'm an executor. They call it in Florida. They call it a personal representative for a friend of mine who
Yes.
passed away at 94. And
Mm-hmm.
and this was a year and a half ago, but we've gone through a lot of different things. And we finally have cleared out her house, or it's really her apartment. And the realtor, because I finally put that part in his hands, and he told me they took out 3 truckloads of stuff out of her apartment. And this is after I had given away a bunch of her things to people for different reasons. And it was just overwhelming. And I know that I'm in the same situation. I live in 3 places and I have 3 fully furnished places. And so it's just a Herculean task. So the question I have for you is, how did you ever get started in this niche?
Welcome to my world, Gail. Actually, it all started. I do this on a regular basis, so I feel your pain. It started back in the mid '90s. My mother became ill, and I was working a job that required me to travel a bit, and I decided to not do that anymore and stay with her while she was ill. And once she passed away, I had responsibility for cleaning out her place. And then my mother-in-law passed away. And then I had 2 sets of aunts and uncles who passed away who had no children. So within a 2-year span, I was responsible for cleaning out several residents, and the average time in each place was 45 to 55 years. So there was quite a bit to do. I had an uncle who had 7 steam irons in his drawers that had to be disposed of because he couldn't remember that he had 7 steam irons. But at any rate, once I figured this out, I said, if I'm a baby boomer and I'm having this much trouble finding resources, which back then weren't as many as there are now, I know that this is the niche I want to be in. And I had always wanted to do social work, but then I realized that I wouldn't be able to make much money off of it. So the real estate, I really carved my own niche out of it. And 25 years later, here I am. And it's just been very rewarding. It's stressful at times having adult children gang up on you, but yes, very rewarding to be able to do this niche and focus on helping people in those dire situations such as you've experienced.
Well, what I found too is, and I can see it with my own situation, what is precious to me is not precious to my kids. And so the things that
Exactly.
I think are important, they couldn't care less about. And
Exactly.
then what they
Hmm.
are interested in, I'm always amazed at. For example, I
Yes.
said to my son, you don't really want any of the stuff that I've got in my storage unit. It's different with the furniture and things like that, but the things that you save that you think are important. And he says, well, and he told me what he was interested in, and I couldn't believe it. And it goes back to my very first career and the early times in Miami Beach, in the 60s. And that's what he wants. He says, because that's the real Miami Beach. And I
Yes.
was in the
Hmm.
modeling business then. And so I have a lot of great, photos and things like that. And it was just very interesting to me that
Hmm.
really the stuff I've got now, he couldn't care less about. all the places that I spoke, 50, I was in 50 countries and 49 states, couldn't care less about those things. So
No.
it's just fascinating. And I'm sure you've had lots of
Oh, yeah.
stories that you could
Trying to,
relate to us.
yeah, trying to explain to the parents that your children do not want another dining room set. They either don't have one because they don't use it, they don't sit down and have a meal, or they already have one. They don't want the china, they don't want the silver, they don't have that kind of lifestyle. And it's very difficult to explain that to the parents who have set this aside because they knew that their child or their grandchild, sometimes they will save the bedroom furniture because the grandchild's going to start their first apartment after graduation from college, and they don't have those same issues. The difference between the millennials and youngers versus the olders is like two bulls in a china shop quite often. So yes, I have been there and done that many times. A lot of times I have to spend negotiating. The other issue is that there may be 4 children in the family and they all want that same thing. Well, mom always liked you best. Why can't I have it too? So one time I had to negotiate. There was a silver tea service, which I was surprised that anybody would want. So I told each child, I said, you can have it for 3 months, then you pass it along to your next sibling for 3 months, and so on through the year. And then that way everyone gets to share it, and no one has to say, well, you got it and I didn't. So I get a lot of that, yeah.
That's a really neat idea, Deb. I like that. But do they cooperate?
The other thing I do, yeah. The other thing I do, well, if you can get them to cooperate. But
Exactly.
the other thing I do is I take pictures of everything in the house. I had one gentleman who was moving to a retirement community, and his children had been after him for years after his wife passed to document the things in the house because there were a lot of family pieces. And so when he was walking me through the house, I had a camera and I videoed him talking about, well, this was the grandmother's chair that was such and such, and it goes back to the 1800s, and those kinds of things. And I sent a disc to each child, and they were thrilled because they had it. They didn't have to have the piece, but they had the memory. And so I have a program where take the memories with you, and it really helps people to, because so much of this is emotional and they have to have closure, and a lot of their childhood memories, good or bad, surface during this time, and it's difficult for everyone. So I act as a facilitator, negotiator, emotional counterpoint. You can yell at me for anything and I'll listen. I don't care because I've been through it and I understand. And there's so many different types of people out there and everyone has their own set of issues to deal with. And so that's another way of dealing with that, yes.
So what are some of the trends that we ought to watch out for?
I think one of the biggest trends, I just got back from a tour of Florida, several active adult communities, but I also revisited Lakewood Ranch. And Lennar is building, and it's wonderful. It's a Gen X, they call it, multi-generational house where the parent has like an apartment off to the side. It has its own entrance outside and its own entrance inside. And then the family with the children and grandchildren live in the main part of the house. I think Lennar has figured out that is fast catching on as a trend. Another trend for single women, I work with a lot of single women because their husbands have passed, but is to share a house with a group. So it's not like a big group home, but there's 3 or 4 people and they share the house, and then they have someone who's kind of there to watch out for the other. And the village concept is another issue that's coming up as well, another solution, I should say, where you have the neighborhoods organize volunteers, and they go in and they'll do simple things like turn a mattress on a bed for someone who has arthritis, or they will make sure that they take their medicine, or they'll go to the grocery store, those kinds of things. And I think the baby boomers are in a good position to also come up with new ideas and ways of living in the future. But I think the multi-generational concept is a wave of the future where parents can live with the children but not live with the children. There's a connecting doorway, and you don't go past it if it's locked, But Lennar has caught on to that and is doing a great job, and several other builders, of course, are doing it as well.
That's very interesting. I haven't seen that. So is there a community where that is happening now that you are familiar with?
Yes, the Savannah area of Lakewood Ranch is the best place to go see the Lennar home, is because they have the model and it's open for touring. And if you're in that Lakewood Ranch, Sarasota area, it's an easy drive to get to. And if you Google multi-generational housing, you'll find that there are various builders around the country. Some are smaller than Lennar and others are on the same level, are doing that multi-generational housing concept. And but Lennar has really been on this for the past several years, and they've really made great inroads with it. And it's a big draw for people who are in a master plan or interested in a master plan community. And
well, that's great. How is the pricing? Is the pricing?
Well, the pricing that I saw, they have a maximum of 6 bedrooms. The in-law suite, I call it, the apartment, has its own kitchen. Now, it does not have a stove, and you have bedroom, den, living, dining, and then you share the lanai area, the caged area, with the family. But it's certainly easy to do. But then the main part of the house, there is obviously the main living space on the main level, but then upstairs is the equivalent of recreation bonus room space and the bedrooms for the children and the master bedroom. And it's plenty of space. You can get anywhere from 1,500 to 2,200 square feet. The price on the house that I saw, that I visited, now the parent would have 1-car garage, and then the adult children have a 2-car garage on the other side. So it's very interesting, but the price point was about, and this included a pool and hot tub, in the mid 350s, that range.
Very
but you
reasonable.
Can go higher.
Yeah, very.
With more amenities, if you want, but it's very affordable, and it's under 400. You can obviously upgrade, but of course they put all the bells and whistles in the models. But it's very good because they have video doorbells and they have all kinds of interesting upgrades that are included in the house. And so you have a kitchen in the in-law suite, no stove, but they give you a convection oven and plenty of space. I didn't feel that it was too small. And then the family space is the main living area, and then the upper level is the bedrooms and the multi-use room, where it would be like a rec room in the basement in other houses. It's up on the upper level. But they do put the houses closer together because Lakewood Ranch has so much land that's not going to ever be developed, and so they want to keep the density there. But it's an excellent idea, and I think Lennar is very smart to go for it because, if you want to live in a master plan community, it's a great solution for bringing your mom or dad with you and having them have the privacy, but yet they can interact with the family when they want to.
Well, I find that, the Hispanic population has a lot of influence on this as well, because they're very family oriented. I mean, they more
Yes.
than anyone keep the elders with them, as opposed
Absolutely.
to, as opposed to American born. Not that they don't, but Hispanics just typically do.
And the Asians do that too.
Yes,
I was surprised.
Well, yes.
When my book was published, it went number 1 in 4 categories on Amazon, but it was number 1 in 6 countries, including France, Germany, Australia, and number 2 in Japan. But I thought it was interesting that it had an impact overseas as well, because Lennar has captured that concept and done a very good job with implementing it and making it come to life.
Yeah, your book title, by the way, is Move or Improve, which I love. So the question becomes,
the baby boomers, yeah, the baby boomers guide to housing options and how to choose what's right for you, because it is a big decision.
well, it is, and that's what I was going to ask you. Can people really age in place in their homes? Can they do that?
It is possible. I just, believe it or not, I was at the Builders Show in Orlando just a few weeks ago, and I took the CAPS course to become a certified aging in place specialist, and it was a 3-day intense course. And we learned a lot about the older houses that are out there. I live in an area where there's a lot of older homes, where narrow hallways, that sort of thing, which make it more of a challenge to retrofit it to age in place. But there's simple things that you can do in your home as well, like having the lights come on automatically when you go into a room, having a curbless shower, things like that, that can help quite a bit. And it is possible, but if you have an older home, that some houses just aren't going to work. You can't get a chairlift, you can't get an elevator, and so therefore you have to make other decisions about what else works for you. It may be someplace that's close to where you currently live, or you may want to move to a different climate, that sort of thing. But yes, it is possible to age in place. It depends a lot on the configuration of your current home, though, as to whether it makes sense to spend that kind of money.
Yeah, I would assume so. And so what are those the biggest obstacles to aging in place versus what are the biggest obstacles to moving?
Well, moving requires big decisions as to location, price point, weather, climate, taxes, location of hospitals, medical facilities, that sort of thing. And the biggest thing I think that people have is, whether you stay or whether you move, get rid of your stuff. If you're going to age in place, you need clear pathways to get through and work and live safely in your home. And you can't have it if you have a lot of clutter. And that's something I run into quite often with people who have been in their home 30, 40, 50, even 60 years, and they don't understand how easy it is to fall. And falls are one of the top non-emergency situations that come up that hospitals emergency rooms deal with, is somebody falling and taking a fall.
Yeah, I was reading today. I mean, there was some celebrity or musician or something who passed away after a fall in his home, and you hear that a lot. That after an adult falls, it's
absolutely.
Yeah, it's hairy. It really is. But what you were talking about with all the things you talked about moving, many times though, people move in their own town to a older resident, to a over 55, or a place which is specific for them.
That's correct. They may choose to not live where everyone's the same age. They may prefer to move to a condominium where, they have everything on one level, but they have the amenities that they would require, and the fees aren't too high. And if you move, you still have to decide make those kinds of decisions, whether you want active adult or master plan community. If you age in place, you have to decide if your house can accommodate you. But regardless, you're not going to pay a mover to move your junk, so be done with it. And as you learned from cleaning out your friend's house, a property, that it's not as easy as you think. And if you're going to age in place, why keep all of those things that you don't need anymore? Get rid of them, sell them, give them away, and use the proceeds for making improvements and go on from there. But yes, it is possible to age in place given your situation, and that's something that you have to have analyzed and evaluated.
It is interesting because I have this storage unit that I've been paying on for 5 years. It'll be going into 6 years. And I have never used anything that's in that storage unit. But it's not furniture or things like that. It's my stuff from my other life, my books, the books I bought, programs I bought, uh, speeches I've given, just a bunch of
Uh-huh.
stuff from my other life. And
Uh-huh.
I keep saying, well, I want to remember those things. So what I'm trying to do is really just rip out one page that says who I spoke to and where it was and get rid of the whole other part of the book. But it's not easy. It's not easy. And I'm not paying little for this storage unit. I'm paying a lot
Uh-huh.
for this storage unit.
I
And
understand her.
oh gosh,
I
but it
understand.
is my goal to clean that thing out in the next 6 months. So
Well,
that's
I'm gonna contact you in 6 months and find out if you did it. That is a good goal to have.
that sounds
Although I
pretty.
have to say, we moved a husband and wife who've been in their home for 60 years. They had custom built it, and they moved to a retirement community. And the woman, we went up in the attic to clean it out. And okay, this woman is in her upper 70s, and she had her maternity clothes, and her son was 45 at the time. So she laughed about that, but she hadn't been up in the attic because she can't reach things, and going up the steps is dangerous. But when we moved them, they went to a 2-bedroom, much smaller space, but they had a 5-bedroom house. So she rented, get this, 6 storage bins to put her things in because she might need them someday. And to this day, that's been 10 years ago, and to this day, she still has them.
Interesting. Yeah,
So
yeah, I know.
feel good, Gail. Feel good, Gail, that you're not in that position.
Yeah, it's really an interesting thing. Well, we have about 3 minutes left in this segment, and I want to just talk about your book for a minute. So, your title is Move or Improve, but you've got a tagline under that, right?
Well, the tag underneath is the Baby Boomer's Guide to Housing Options and How to Choose What's Right for You.
And
So
where can they
it
get that book?
discusses through Amazon.
Oh,
Amazon.com has it available for sale, and they can either get a Kindle version or purchase a hard copy. And then maybe 6 years from now, I'll call them and find out if they still have it.
yeah, that's interesting. But interesting that it went to all those countries. So,
I was surprised too, but it shows that is a universal topic that hits a hot button.
so did it have to be translated in other languages?
No, well, if it was, I didn't translate it, but it did very well in Australia and France and Germany. I guess there's enough people over there that speak English, but the publisher didn't advise me that it had been translated, so I'm assuming it was in English. It
I'm
did very
surprised
well in
though
the
in
U.S.
Japan,
Canada.
that it wasn't translated into Japanese because
Yeah,
usually when you go to a country like that, it is translated. But that's very, very interesting. Well,
maybe that's why. Maybe that's why it was number 2 over there. They didn't have it translated. I don't know, but it was U.S., Canada, United Kingdom, France, Germany, and Australia. It did very well, and in 4 categories under Amazon's. How they rank things and where they put them under, and but you can order it on Amazon. Yes.
so let's give them the title, the exact title again.
Move or Improve, and then there's a question mark, and then the Baby Boomer's Guide to Housing Options, How to Choose What's Right for You.
Fabulous, fabulous.
It's based on seminars that I've taught over the years, and people say, well, when are you going to do another one? And I said, well, you know what? I think I'm just going to write a book because it gets the word out. You can feel as though you're at the seminar with me, but you can read the book, and then if you have questions, you can call me and we can move from there. But if I did those seminars all the time, I would have so much stuff going on, I wouldn't be able to keep it organized. But the seminars have been very popular over the last 20 years because that's a big concern. Should you stay in your home or should you sell it and move?
Absolutely. Well, wow. Deb Miller is with us. This is the end of our part 1. Stay with us. We'll be back in just a few minutes. But the fascination, the retirees home transition expert, Debbie Miller, is with us.